Oh, I was muted there. Hope you guys can hear me now. Hello, welcome to the Raptors Republic post-game show, The Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Oren Weisfeld. Unfortunately, my co-host, Sahal, is out today. He is on the IR, unavailable. So it will likely just be me today. However, I will definitely be taking questions and highlighting people's comments. So please continue to do that, to comment and ask questions, especially if you're on YouTube. I have a stream of those, so I'm seeing all those. But yeah, the Raptors go down to the Utah Jazz, 106-102, in what will basically likely be the game that decides their play-in race fate. Washington lost tonight by 1 to Luka Doncic's Mavs, so the Raptors had a good opportunity here to pull within 2 games of the Washington Wizards if they had won tonight. And for the most part, for most of the night, it looked like they were going to win. They looked like the better team. Utah did not look like they had very much gas. They didn't have very much. They went in total 10 deep tonight, but they're on the second night of a back-to-back. Utah is after losing to the Phoenix Suns yesterday. And the Raptors had a golden opportunity in front of them. There's really no other way to put it. I mean, it looked like for a while that their playoff dreams might be dead, but then Washington lost and they were winning. So it looked like the Raptors had a really good opportunity here. And only for a fourth quarter absolute blowout. Like, I'm looking it up here, but the Raptors scored a total of, let's see. Do I have it here? I don't know. Maybe someone can pull up the scores of the fourth quarter. But yeah, the Raptors just had no offense. And it turned into a game where at first the Raptors were moving the ball beautifully. They were doing everything to set up really nice looks for guys. They were attacking the paint really well. Khem Birch was getting involved because guys were just dropping it off to him, and he had these easy looks. And then towards the end of the game, we saw the Raptors kind of divert into this ISO mode that they too often go to when things are not looking up for them. But we do have our guest. He's in the building, just getting ready. So that's exciting. But yeah, it was a game for the taking, and the Raptors just had no offense. Fred VanVleet, he had a really good game. He scored 30, and he was the Raptors' biggest source of offense. But ultimately, he even hit that mid-range jumper to bring them within 3, but he also missed a lot of shots down the stretch and got a little bit selfish down the stretch. So, 11 for 25. That's good, but down the stretch, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he did enough. And Manny, are you ready? You're a little dark there. Anyway, you can turn.
Oh yeah, 1 second. Yeah,
We got Manny from Raptors Republic joining us today. So,
hey guys,
Manny,
how's it going?
yeah, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's late. I'm not used to doing these shows this late, but
Me neither. Yeah, me neither. Not at all. It's my
at
first
least
time.
yeah, welcome. At least we were treated
Thanks.
to a very, very good Raptors game, I would say. Other than the losing, that was an entertaining game, right?
Yeah, I would say so for sure, man. It's a late game number 1, so have it. It's either gonna, if you're gonna get a blowout, like that's nice because you get to go to bed early. But at least we saw like an action-packed game. You know what I mean? At least we saw a good game, and it's another game in a long string of games that the first 3 quarters were played pretty well, I thought, with a lot of cohesion, a lot of team chemistry was there. But I think the fourth quarter is when it fell apart. He scored, I think, 13 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
altogether.
I couldn't find it, but I believe you.
Yeah, it was 13 points, and that's when it fell apart, man. So I think OG had one really good block over Bojan Bogdanovic, and
Right.
I thought that was going to be a turning point, like sort of like a momentum builder, but it didn't turn out to be the case. And like you were saying, Fred had the ball a little bit. I think the main thing is that they never really got their offense set in the fourth quarter, at least within those last 3 or 4 minutes. So
Yeah.
tough loss.
Yeah, and I couldn't really figure out why they weren't getting their offense set. Like I was hoping they would run maybe like a post up for OG or a post up for Siakam, something they like to go to where they get a mismatch on one of those guys and then post them up. And they tried that, but it was a little too late, and that was on the last possession where Fred ended up hitting like a mid-range two, but they tried to get it to Siakam in the post. The Jazz blew it up, but before that, it was really just give the ball to Fred and nothing's happening. No one's moving around him. So he'll get a screen and then he'll try to make something happen out of nothing. And we know what the ceiling of that is. Like Fred is good. He's a good scorer. But he provides value in other ways where him being your guy who runs the offense, who runs everything, that's probably not going to get you so far. And they didn't do it for 3 quarters, like you said, and they just did it in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And like I was saying before you came on, this is unfortunate because this was their chance to make the play-in. Like, I'm not sure how you feel about tanking versus play-in, but the Wizards lost. The Raptors had a chance to come within 2 games of the Wizards with a win today. And it's basically over. Like, we are...
I mean, like it is. It's just also a matter of... I think like these next, I think that they have 8 games left now. So I mean, I think they're resting Fred tomorrow is what I read. In terms of where they go from here, I mean, I don't know. I'm never 100% sure with this team because they're cursed and blessed at the same time, having won a championship so early in their tenure, at least Pascal, OG, Fred, and Boucher. I think there's like having won a championship so early, it's like those guys aren't interested in tanking, you know what I mean? But then I also see it as I don't know any potential lottery picks that could help them right now because unless it's going to be like, top 5 pick or, there's just so much I think to analyze in that respect. But this was a classic case of another 4th quarter collapse, and it's not ideal, obviously, but I think the main issue is that they just were never able to set their offense in the 4th quarter. OG was not able to continue his efficient run, that he's been having lately. I mean, he scored 15 points, but not the efficient way we're used to seeing him do it. And the bench production, it was they were thin. They were really thin on the bench.
Yeah, like the broadcast I was saying, Jordan Clarkson alone outscored the Raptors bench, and it wasn't very close. But I guess let's get to the bad before the good, because there was some good for sure out of this game. But OG, like you talked about, maybe not the most efficient game, but two pretty big blocks, and I thought he was pretty good. Pascal Siakam, on the other hand, really his 3rd ugly game in a row. 7 for 18, which honestly it felt worse than that because he had 4 turnovers. And I just thought I was just disappointed. Like usually when he has a bad game, he'll turn it around the next game and kind of come out more aggressive and doing some stuff. But now it's 3 games in a row where defenses just have answers for him. Like, is there anything you've seen over the past few games where he's kind of been in this rut that you thought he was doing better earlier when he was kind of on this run earlier in April as opposed to now?
I think it was just a matter of I think he faced teams that in the last 3 games that kind of had somebody that was there to kind of match up with him in a way. I mean, Brooklyn, you could make the argument for and against, but the game against Cleveland, New York, and there's even the first one, April 21st against Brooklyn, in that run where he scored 27 against Brooklyn, 26 against New York, 25 against Cleveland. I think the biggest thing is he had like Denver and Utah had answers for him. A couple nights ago, Denver had Jokic, they had Gordon, they could put people on him. They could put different guys on him that could match up. And then tonight with Utah, I was like, Joe Ingles is a good defender. I don't know how long he was on Pascal, if at all, but being down there and going up against Rudy Gobert at the rim is a tough task. But I think he needs that. I think he really needs to work on his shooting over the offseason for sure, because I think the spin move is become somewhat of a predictable thing with him. I think he goes to it a lot, and I think teams have figured that out.
No, I think,
would say that's it.
Yeah, I think teams have figured him out to an extent. I think, like you said, the shooting is huge because teams are just packing the paint against him and daring him to shoot, and he's lost his confidence with that. And like every time he took a mid-range shot in this game, I was just like, no, please don't. Like, this is not a shot anyone is comfortable. Like he takes them so rarely that it's like, you're not comfortable taking them and I'm not comfortable watching you take them. But like the thing I think I've noticed as of late is that for a lot of this season, he's done a better job making contact before he kind of gathers and goes up. And recently he's just not making contact. He's just trying to finish around guys, use his length. But he's not like being the aggressor, making the contact and then going up to finish. Or if he doesn't make contact, it's way too late. It's when he's already at the rim, in which case, he's not going to get the foul. And also he's likely not going to finish the basket. So I don't know. I'm disappointed in him. I was reading your preview. Like some of that is on Siakam, but then also some of that is the way that the Raptors kind of ran this game. Is that I was reading your preview and you were talking about how, with Donovan out and with what's his name?
Mitchell or
Conley out. Yeah, you said ahead of the game on RaptorsRepublic.com that basically it was a big opportunity for Van Vliet and Flynn because there's not going to be real guards on them. And so they have an opportunity to attack a defense maybe not so designed to stop them. So what did you see from those two? I mean, we talked a bit about Van Vliet already, so maybe you can focus on Flynn. But yeah, what did you see from Toronto's guard play that kind of gave them a chance as this one?
Well, obviously, we talked about Fred. Van Vliet, not Van Vliet. Flynn, I think, I can't fault him too much because, he's still a rookie. Although I do think he's ahead of schedule in a lot of ways. And we were talking about this, like, I'm somewhat of a Malachi stan at this point because I just think he's so good. But, it was an opportunity, of course, when you have two all-star guards out and you're going up against the best team now the second best team in the West. It's a big opportunity, especially for Toronto playing for a play-in spot to really get that win and carry that momentum going forward, because that's a huge thing, is building confidence that way, right? And you've got those two guys out who I mentioned in the preview. They take like a good chunk of Utah's three-pointers, and Utah's number one in the league for three-pointers. So I think that it was a missed opportunity. I think that had they been a little bit more patient in the fourth quarter and really established their offense a lot better, I think that the opportunities would have been there. I think they would have maybe been a little bit more favorable, but at the same time, I mean, Van Vliet did as good as he could. Fred did as good as he could. Malachi Flynn, like, obviously 4 for 11 is not pretty. Then again, it's hard for me to really fault that because he's still a rookie, and it's so easy to forget that because he's filled in when big shoes are like out, in Lowry and Van Vliet. But I wish we saw. I guess he was out, but for the most part, I mean, like the bench was just thin, and playing the starters. I think all of them played pretty much 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Flynn played 36. Khem Birch played 35. By the way, Khem Birch played amazing again.
Yeah, we're gonna get to him for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I would just say the guard play, that was a huge, and it was a missed opportunity for Toronto in that respect. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely not the most efficient night from either of those two, but I still think they, if I had to compare the guards to the wings, I would say the guards did a better job. You know, Flynn, we don't really expect to have these crazy scoring games, and he definitely didn't, but he's just so solid, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. He had 1 steal, but it felt like he had more than that. I mean, his defense is amazing. He gets over screens with absolutely no problem. And Van Vliet we talked about, but yeah, I thought Flynn was pretty good. But like you just mentioned about, now I'm looking at the minutes load, and it's kind of weird to me that out of the starters, Birch played the least, because on one hand, he's the newest Raptor and still, I guess you could say, getting adjusted, but to me, I thought he was the best Raptor when he was on the floor, and that might be a stretch, but he every time I come on the show and I'm like, wow, that was Birch's best game as a Raptor. Wow, that was Birch's best. Every game, he just has a better game, and this was eye popping. It's not just the scoring; he was doing some things that are I'll play some clips when you're talking, but yeah, he was doing some passes out of the short roll. His offensive rebounding, the timing on those jumps is ridiculous. He's shooting threes now just all of a sudden and hitting them.
Yeah.
And then defensively, he's just so mobile and so good that he really Rudy Gobert had 13 points, on the night, only took 8 shots. So they really limited Rudy, and that was a group effort. But overall, what jumped out to you about Birch's game, and what has surprised you, I guess, since he's become a Raptor?
What surprised me the most about Khem Birch and his 10 years as a Raptor is that this is only his 11th game as a Raptor tonight. And it's crazy because, you look at his stats from Orlando and you look at some tape from Orlando, his time there, and he's become very comfortable in Toronto, and that's benefited both the Raptors and him. Kyle Lowry said he's trying to get Khem Birch paid.
Yeah.
And I mean, Kyle Lowry didn't play tonight. So Khem Birch has I mean, look, I'm not saying he's going to be an all NBA center ever, because that is just, crazy. But wow, was he one of the best buyout candidates of the year, I would say, and at least in my opinion. I think I can't believe that this guy was so underutilized in Orlando.
Yeah.
Then again, it also has to do with timing. We had here in with the Raptors, they had the opportunity, they had the minutes that they needed to allocate somewhere, because it wasn't working out with Baines. So I guess for Toronto, they just they also had no other choice but to give Birch all these minutes. To say that he's exceeded expectations, I would say so, 100%. He wasn't shooting threes in Orlando, I don't think. He also wasn't he wasn't playing as much, but I think he has a defined role with the Raptors. When he was with the Magic, I think there was somewhat of a logjam at center.
Yeah.
He definitely, like I said, has much more of a defined role with the Raptors, and I think that has really played into his confidence, and you can see it. He's showcasing what he can really do, and whether it's a sample size or whether this is part of the bigger picture, it's definitely been a silver lining in a season where there isn't really much of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure. And And that's the question, right? Is this a small sample size thing? And especially with the threes, I'm not ready to go anywhere with it because it could just be a small sample size thing. Or is he ready to do this over the course of a full season as a starting center? And that, we don't know yet for sure. But when he came to Toronto, everyone kind of pegged him as backup center. He'll start for us because we have Baines, but in the future, this guy's no more than a backup center. But he's proved to me, at least, where I could see them going into next season with Khem Birch as the starting center, and I wouldn't even be mad about it, which really changes their offseason plans. That's why this is not just something to scoff at. This is actually a big deal that he's this good, and he fits the system this well, because this could really change the Raptors offseason plans, where now they might have a really affordable guy to be their center, and then they can kind of fill out the roster and use their cap space other ways. And before I talk about this clip, I'll also say on Khem Birch, they were talking on the broadcast about how, if I was an agent, I think Matt was saying, if I was an agent, I would want my player to come to Toronto, because in Toronto, they have all the room to show what they have. And that's not necessarily true. A lot of guys are asked to do, Matt Thomas, for example, was asked to do a very specific thing in Toronto. And when he couldn't do it, they shipped him off. So I don't know how true that is, but for Khem, it's absolutely true. But that's about the fit and everything. That's because, like you talked about, we had Baines and we were desperate. And all of a sudden, this guy comes in, and not only is it a position of need, but it's a great system fit. So I don't think every player can look at Khem and think that's some replicable thing, but he's absolutely being the poster boy for, getting more of a role and showing what you can do. And this pass just amazed me. And he did this a couple times where it might not be the most accurate pass, but he just knew where guys were. He had a tip out to OG for a three where he just knew where OG was. And here he just kind of knows where Malachi is. So his passing has been amazing. And his offensive rebounding also, like I said, has been really impressive. And honestly, his defense, I don't have clips of it, but the way that he can really play whatever you ask him to, whether it's drop in the pick and roll, come to the level, hedge, he can do it all. He boxes out after going for a block or whatever. He'll still beat Rudy to the box out. So,
and his footwork is really good. I mean, and maybe that's just a byproduct of watching Baines and his footwork, because I don't know about you, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it, to put it nicely. I wasn't the biggest fan of Baines' footwork. And that is something that stood out to me. And, seeing Khem Birch and seeing him be able to, get to a defensive assignment, as well as, like you said, hedge and cut. And it is refreshing, really, to look at and to see. So, I mean, yeah, he's done a lot, and probably more than what Toronto has asked him to do. And that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, before we get off of this game and maybe talk about some more general Raptors thoughts, do you have any more thoughts on the game? Maybe about how, the Raptors did hold Utah. I keep mixing it up because Utah won right now. Yeah. They did hold them to 106 points. So I feel like defensively wasn't really the problem. It was the offense, and we talked about what happened with the offense. But defensively, was there anything that the Raptors did tonight that caught your eye or impressed you, or what do you think about their defense overall?
I think that they did a great job at causing turnovers. They caused Utah had 20 turnovers. And on top of that, they it was 12 steals on the Raptors. They had 12 steals in the game compared to Utah's 3. The offensive boards in the first half, I think Baines had 5 of them, I believe.
Khem Birch, you mean? You said Baines.
Oh yeah, did I say Baines?
Yeah, sorry, it's in your head.
Birch. Yeah, now it's in my head, right? So Birch had 5 5 offensive boards, and I thought that was unreal. Sorry, still talking about how much there is to love about Khem Birch, but yeah, I think they caused turnovers, and they did a really good job of taking care of the ball on the offensive end. They had 10 turnovers, but 26 assists. And in the first half, I was looking at the numbers, and they only had 2 turnovers and 15 assists. So, they did like what they needed to do.
Yeah.
At least in the first 3 quarters. And then in the last quarter, it's a tale we all know so well is that it just kind of crumbles, it falls apart, So defensively, I would say causing mayhem on that end was super key. And I think it's totally an offensive fault for why they didn't win the fourth.
Yeah, and the Raptors did a good job getting into the paint for most of that game, and they basically avoided Rudy's, shot blocking by shooting floaters, shooting mid ranges, or kind of getting to the rim and then baiting, Gobert out and then giving it to Khem, who has a pretty nice floater himself. And defensively, I think the Jazz did a really good job from the outside, 17 for 41. They shot 40% from 3, but inside, like I said, Rudy only had 8 field goal attempts. Favors only had 2. So the Raptors really limited those guys just by not letting them get the ball, showing doubles when they did have the ball on a mismatch really quickly. The Raptors actually, in my eyes, played really good defense, even though, the Jazz were without key guys, and it becomes a whole lot harder to defend them when they're healthy for a lot of reasons, but we can't really, think about that. Just given what Utah put on the floor, the Raptors did good. Like OG's block on, I think, Bogdanovic,
yeah, that late.
It's just I wonder why people still go at OG. It's just like, don't you watch this guy? How could you see him in a post-up situation and think I'm going to try to shoot over top of him?
Do people still go at OG, really?
He did there. And then there was this clip going around from a couple games ago where this rookie, I don't even remember who, called for an ISO on OG. It was the Cleveland game. And then OG just stuffed him and then walked up the court and it was over. So yeah, there is some weird stuff. But I think that's enough on this game in particular, unless you had any final thoughts.
No, that's about it. Yeah, it was overall well played. It just fourth quarter, the offense was not set in ways that we're used to seeing it set.
Yeah. So what about where are you at now in terms of, would you like to see the Raptors keep making a run, even though that their odds are really bad now? Would you like to see them keep pushing and not rest guys and give it all they have, basically? Or do you kind of want to just see them rest their stars and kind of tank a little bit here and basically look towards next season?
So I don't necessarily look, here's the thing. I don't advocate for tanking because, I don't think the team wants to do that. I don't think that they want to endorse that. And so, for me, it's also a matter of, how much did people hate the Sixers for it? When they had that, when they had the process going on, you know what I mean? And it's not like that's the same thing. It's it's different because that was a years upon years rebuild.
Yeah,
but
this would just be one, really
just be
8
one,
games. 8 games is really what we're talking about.
And here's the thing. It's it's not so much, I would say that this is an omission. This season, has been an omission if anything. I think that, seeing what you have with certain guys and also, maybe running the offense more through OG, seeing how that plays out, giving Malachi more minutes, just kind of seeing what, the Raptors have with certain pieces, I feel is a really good idea. And, a lot of times that goes hand in hand with losing, unfortunately. But I think that the playoffs, the play-in spot right now, it's going to be really tough to get there. I think there's 8 or 9 games left. And I think at this point, there's no real reason to rest guys other than you've already decided that this year is an omission. This year is kind of you're foregoing this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It depends on who they want to target in the draft too, though. And that changes. I think there's different variables to work with in regards to it, but for the most part, I would say that this year has been an omission. With not even playing in the country, not even playing here in Toronto, and playing out in Tampa. So pretty much every single game for the Raptors was a road game.
Yeah.
And, not having that fan base there is a big deal. But I'm kind of at the point where, I'm okay with if they're going to sit key guys and just kind of let the season play out how it will. Let Nurse experiment a little bit more, see what he can get out of certain guys, see if certain guys aren't showing certain capabilities, and work on it. See what you can do from there. What do you think?
No, I'm with you. I mean, for the most part, I've been pushing for the play-in game. I definitely am not pro tank in any way. I'm not pro blow it up in any way. But I mean, now this was just such a bad loss that not only because the way it happened in that it gives you less confidence that these guys can pull away these late game situations, but also just in the actual odds, it really screws the Raptors' chances. So I'm now at the point where these last 8 games, I'd like to see them rest and kind of move up the lottery as much as they can, because even if they don't know who they want to target in the draft, you just want the best pick possible, and then you can choose from there and have more choices. And I also think this is a really good comment. And Roji John says, let's say you make the playoffs. If you're playing your starters 40 minutes, would you have gas for the play-in game? And also the playoffs, assuming you win the play-in games, because that's realistically the only path here, is that you really ride the starters 40 minutes, because we know what the bench is. We know that they're just not good enough. So you can only really play 7-8 guys if you really want to make a push here. And if you do that, then you get in a play-in game, then you get in a playoff series. And what's the point if all your guys are dead tired by the time you get there?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I would only want to be in a playoff. I love the idea of the Raptors playing, the Sixers in a first round series, because, it would just be a fun rematch, and they have figured out the Sixers in certain ways. But it's a good point that they would get there and they would just be dead tired, and they just wouldn't have what it takes to double Embiid every play and then run out to the perimeter. It's an exhausting style they already play. So I think I'm officially on the tank wagon, or whatever we want to call it.
I mean, I understand that part, because the guys do deserve a rest. Especially this season, it's just been this season has been easily the most frustrating season, I think, in all sports. And it doesn't make sense to play your starters 40 plus minutes, because Lowry's going to play probably 46 minutes. Van Vliet's going to play 47 or around the same. And, to have, I think to have Pascal's offense, how we talked about it earlier, how teams have figured him out, it just kind of shortens, it decreases your ability to really expand and, match up with certain teams, I think. But, if there's somebody that can do it, it's Nick Nurse. Now, going back to the players and their minutes, though, yeah, man, I don't think the push is worth it if that's all you're going to do, because, a play-in game, like the Raptors at this point, I think if the higher seed wins 1 game, then it's over, but then the lower seed has to win 2 straight games against.
Yeah, the Raptors would need to win 2 games before.
2 games, yeah. So that's 9 games. If we're lucky, 9 games, but 6 games at the most. at least 6 games that you're playing like your starters heavy minutes. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think, and it also you got to factor in if there is going to be a sign and trade for Lowry in the summer, because you don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah,
If you're gonna take that route, you
that's
don't
true.
want to risk injuring him because he is a pretty valued commodity, I think, amongst the league, and I think a lot of teams, would be willing to give up a sizable chunk for him.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of their thinking in resting him all these games. And I don't see any situation where he walks for nothing. I think he either re-signs with the Raptors or gets signed and traded, like we said. I've also been thinking about this question from Guru. After a horrible season, will the Raps still have trouble attracting a star? Because like the Raptors have been building towards this thing where they're no longer laughed at. They're actually one of the premier organizations in the NBA for all these reasons. They win their player development, their coaching, their management, all of it, and Toronto also. But now after this season from hell, it's like,
Yeah.
will free agents want to come to Toronto after like they now, if you just look at them, they're a lottery team all of a sudden, and it's like one of the worst teams in the league. Do you think free agents will have trouble with that, or do you think free agents will kind of take a more bigger picture view and be like, you know what, they've won for the past 8 years, it's just one season, and kind of be able to live with that?
I think it depends on where the NBA is in that regard. Like, I think a huge part of it is the appeal of Toronto. I mean, and maybe I'm biased because like we're in the GTA.
Yeah. No,
I'm
but I think
assuming
so too. And I think
yeah,
Birch is a good example of a Canadian who was just like, yeah, I want to play for my hometown team.
yeah, 100%. And I would love for that to be the case. I think that the Raptors still have a pretty cool appeal because they've gone from being the laughing stock, in those Bargnani years to, this team is serious. Like, this organization is serious. Like, they're not playing around. They're not trying to sign like, somebody like, and in no way is this a shot at Etuan Moore, but not trying to sign a guy like Etuan Moore to like, a 3-year, $15 million contract. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not trying to do that like in the, Brian Colangelo area.
Right,
This
right.
is a team that's serious about winning. This is a team that wants to win now. And I think, they've established the culture there. They've established, who they are and what their identity is. And I think that, a player who like a potential free agent who, they're looking to sign is coming into the team, like wanting to know, like, where do you see me fitting in? Like, where do you see me as, taking place in this environment? Like, how do you see me fitting in? So I think that the appeal, is there. It's just a matter of also like, being an American player and looking at the Raptors. But I think that I think the appeal is there. I think they're not going to have as much trouble, especially when you have a guy like Gary Trent Jr. who just like reps, like he just rep the Raptors like in Toronto.
And I think a lot of young people in the league
Yeah.
have the same idea as him,
Yeah.
where they're like, yeah, this is like the best player development organization. Why wouldn't I want to be here? But I tend to agree with you in terms of free agents. I think it's like basically the same free agents who would have wanted to come previous to this season still want to come, and then the ones who wouldn't wanted to come previous season still don't want to come, right? And it's like, there's certain guys who value what the Raptors have done and Toronto, and who see that they have a chance to win here. And there's certain guys who would just never leave the States, like, because they have these ideas about Canada and taxes and the border and all this shit. And that's just, I don't think that's changed after one bad season, because I think players are smart enough to realize, like, yeah, they had a really shitty situation here and they're a better team than that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that because and that's a big part of it. I was having this talk today where it was like I think the Raptors have become like somewhat of a cultural staple within Toronto and the GTA. And I think, a big part of that is, the appeal of having a guy like Drake as your, global ambassador. Um, I think that appeals to a lot of the younger guys in the league,
mm,
because, like, what is cooler than being mentioned on a Drake song, having your name being dropped on a Drake song? Like everybody in the league is like, they're working towards that. That's on their mind one way or another, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty telling that in a lot of ways basketball and hip hop are like synonymous. I think it just goes hand in hand to like speaking to a bigger audience that way. But at the same time, I agree, like it has an enormous impact on the younger guys of the league.
yeah. And then there's also the fact that like most of the guys, with the exception of Kawhi, who have left recently, have not wanted to leave. Like it's for the most part been the Raptors' choice. Like I say that because someone said Ibaka chose LA, and like that's just not true. Ibaka chose a 2-year contract,
And a
and
starter position,
and it
guaranteed
started,
starting
yeah. And the
position.
Raptors
Yeah.
were basically like, "Sorry, this is what it is. It's 1 year, or you have to go." And the Raptors chose no Ibaka. It's not that Ibaka chose LA. So other
Mm-hmm.
than Kawhi, guys have raved about their experience in Toronto and wanted to stay. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got. It's 1 a.m. here in the GTA. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any final thoughts, or if you want to maybe plug your work or your socials, whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. This is the first time I've been doing this, so this has been pretty cool. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me on, bro.
of course.
Um, my socials, so at Manny Rao on Instagram. That's at, and then obviously MANNYRAO. And then my Twitter is just at underscore Manny Rao. There's somebody that got it, and like the guy hasn't tweeted since like 2011, and I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So it's at underscore Manny Rao on Twitter and at Manny Rao on Instagram. Yeah, hit me up.
All right, and yeah, and read raptorsrepublic.com, where
Yes.
you can find Manny's work.
Yes.
And I'm Oren Weisfeld. Thank you to our sponsor, RF Qureshi, for promoting the show. And we will be back tomorrow night at another 10 p.m. game after the Lakers game. Sahal will be back for that one. So we will see you all then. Thanks so much for tuning in. By the way, I saw that there was like 100 live viewers, and it's 1 a.m. So we appreciate that a lot. See ya.
Thank you. Thank you.
I forgot to say like and subscribe, everyone. Like and subscribe.